What's up, guys? Welcome to Verse Crypto Channel. We got a special guest today. We got Corey C. Crypto.
How
He's
you doing, guys?
awesome. He's a phenomenal influencer in the space. Done a lot of work with the Hex and Pulsechain community, and we're excited to be interviewing him today, man. So thanks for coming on.
Oh, I'm happy to come on, man. First of all, I want to say thank you for what you guys are doing. I love the verse. I want to say that you guys are doing fantastic work as well, educating the community to your audience about Pulsechain-oriented projects. You guys aren't gatekeepers, so you have my respect wholeheartedly because there are unfortunately a lot of gatekeepers in this community, and I'm trying to combat that, and you're trying to combat that, and other channels are trying to combat that. So God bless you for what you're doing, and thank you so much for the honorable introduction. So I appreciate it.
Absolutely, and do appreciate that. And when it comes to this cryptocurrency space, you got to be involved in just a lot more projects outside of Hex and Pulsechain. And I think the major success behind Pulsechain is going to be, a lot of these altcoins and a lot of this development on this chain to bring more people in. So I think we definitely agree on that. So
absolutely,
cool.
Down.
So kind of starting off, man, can we kind of get like a brief breakdown of like what your background is and how did you get into cryptocurrency?
It's a very good question. It's a very, very funny question. Not a funny question. It's a very funny answer. We got time for this stream, right?
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, so I want to let everyone know I had absolutely no background in cryptocurrency. I went to school in 2013 to get a liberal arts degree. I graduated with my associates at a 3.3. Then I went for my bachelor's in history. I got a bachelor's. I graduated with a 4.0. I was the only guy in the school to actually do it out of 4,000 students. I was in 4 honor societies. I was the VP of my fraternity. And then I went for my master's in adolescent ed / social studies. And I graduated with a 3.83 last year. And but my background is mostly education based in history. But I got into cryptocurrency I started learning about it in April / May of 2017. And how I got into it was this. I was working at Petco as a college student, trying to pay my way through college at making $9 an hour at a pet store, petting cats for a living. I had a employee come up to me. And we were talking about money one day, and we were talking about finances, and we were talking about investing. Because at the time, because I was frugal, working at $9.25 an hour and living at home, I was able to save up around $10,000 in about a year's time. And he told me about something called Bitcoin. And he told me he made about $50,000 off of Bitcoin. And I asked him, I was like, did you have to do anything? He's like, no, I just invested and waited. And his name was Daniel Gotch. I'll always remember him. I don't know where he is now. I think he's in Ohio somewhere. So we got into this conversation. We became good friends. And he started teaching me about Bitcoin. He told me that unfortunately he lost all of his money because he moved into Manhattan. He moved into Midtown, where, if many of you are aware, the real estate values in New York City are abhorrent. And he basically paid $5,000 a month for a studio. So he ended up being broke, unfortunately. However, he was able to build his wealth back up. And he explained to me about cryptocurrency. And in May of 2017, I bought my first cryptocurrency, which was Ethereum on Coinbase. Now, what happened was, and the reason why I got so serious about this, I put like I called my uncle up, and we actually had a fight about family inheritance, stuff like that. And I brought up cryptocurrency, and that somehow brought us together. And we became very close because of it, and we became investment partners. So he basically gave me $2,000 and said invest. So I put about $2,000 in that day, or 1,700. I think it was 1,700. And at the time, Ethereum was $80. And this is very actually similar to Fashion Quarter's story about how she got into cryptocurrency. It was $80, and at this time, if you used Coinbase, a bank transfer would take about 6 days, so you were at the mercy of the market. Ethereum doubled in price from 80 to 100 and about $40. So my 1,700 turned into $3,000 in 3 days. And as a kid making $9.25 an hour, working 25 hours a week, after taxes making $200, $300 a week, I was like, wow, there is an entire avenue of upward monetary mobility in the investment sector, not just wage slavery. And after that, for 6 months, this guy took me under his wing. He taught me about transfers. He taught me about smart contracts. He taught me about peer-to-peer networks. He taught me about exchanges. And at this time, you could use Bittrex, HitBTC, Binance, if you were in New York, Kraken. You could use all these exchanges. Now you can't use basically any of them. So then I started getting into altcoins like Litecoin, like Golem, like Substratum, like Bitcoins, and then that turned into Ethos, which is now Voyager. And 2017, 2018 happened. My portfolio went from 10K to 130,000, but I was too naive, I was too young, and I was too stupid to realize that this market wasn't just an upward spiral. So it collapsed, and my portfolio went down to 1,200. So I had to find a way to invest in this market without investing my own money in it. So I started looking for employment, and I knew one of my main skills was writing. So I found this old school, they don't exist now. I found this old project called the Charter Protocol, and they hired me as a contractor for writing and a Telegram administrator. I started working for them, and at the same time, as unfortunately Charter was going down the drain, I started writing articles for a protocol, an interoperable protocol called Icon, in around the year 2019. And I became one of their ambassadors. And as time went on, I became one of their main community ambassadors and one of their top influencers for about a year and a half. And then I started my YouTube channel while I was an Icon, but it really wasn't that big of a YouTube channel, wasn't that well known. And then I stumbled upon another employment opportunity where I worked with a project called Ergo, which is another project, a hybrid blockchain project for public and private blockchains in South Korea. And I work with them, and that takes me to 2021, where I cashed out the day before I graduated. And then actually Harry of Illiquid Markets on Twitter, who I'm interviewing on Thursday, introduced me to Pulsechain. And he wrote something about Pulsechain on Twitter, and I was bored because I cashed out and I had no cryptocurrency. I was bored, and I was like, I got to figure out about what this Pulsechain is, because the week before I found out about Pulsechain, I learned about Hex at a meditation course. Actually, one of the meditators came up to me while we were both at a pizzeria and said what I did for a living. I said, I work at crypto. And his wife was like, please don't get him started. He doesn't shut up about it. So he said to me that he got in about 6 months prior, and if I had heard about Hex. And I said, no, I've heard of it before, but I've never been interested in it. And then in the week span, 3 days after that happened, I got a message in the mail from Hex. And I'll be honest with you, I looked at the thing, thought it was illegitimate, and I ripped it up and threw it out. And then I saw Pulsechain, and then I realized that Pulsechain and Hex are basically the same community. They're sister communities. And then I was focused on reviving my channel, and that brings me to 2022, where basically my channel now is doing, I'd say, fairly well. And I'm into trying to be a person in Pulsechain and Hex that isn't a gatekeeper, that I'm trying to help out this blockchain to be successful as much as it can, and trying to bring other projects into this community as well. So that's my story.
That's a pretty amazing story. It's so interesting how you evolved from, Bitcoin to a lot of other coins, and then you cash out totally. And that's pretty insane that your portfolio went up to almost 135,000. Like,
yeah.
Oh man, I couldn't imagine. I remember right when we had that huge dip after the coronavirus, I got into the stock market hard, and my portfolio went up to about 50 grand, and then it dipped down to about, I think it was like 5 grand. And I was kind of in the same boat as you. You got to go through that, first, you ride it really, really high, and then you just get absolutely burned, and then you probably get the biggest life lesson out of that. So
amen to that. I saw a very good quote. I forgot who said it, but to summarize it, it was basically, your first bull market is to learn, your second market is to cash out. And I wish, based on crypto Twitter, no one took that advice, or very little people took that advice and took profits the second time around. So
absolutely.
But yeah, it's very interesting. I learned a lot from it. I became agoraphobic. I couldn't leave my house. I gained 60 pounds. I had to go to Emotions Anonymous when it happened, when I didn't cash out. and it was a bad spiral. I couldn't like eat in restaurants. I couldn't work. So, but then I picked myself up for the bootstraps, and I worked my way up. I was able to work to a point where I got 120,000 icon, and I sold the 120,000 icon at around $2.12. And yeah, that's where I am now.
Hey, good for you, man. And I'm glad you're in a better place. And I think out of this entire experience, I guarantee you, like, and this is me talking to anyone else that's in crypto. We had this massive bull market, and this is probably the biggest bull market in the history of cryptocurrency.
Absolutely.
But now we're in a bear market, and I think more and more people understand the concept of dollar cost averaging and accumulation. So at least now you're here for the bear market. You can prepare for the next bull. And I mean, I'm excited for you. I'm excited for anyone else actually viewing this video and viewing our channels. So they're going to be prepared for it. So moving on, I really want to get into a little bit about the Pulsechain and pick your brain a little bit about it. So what are your thoughts on Pulsechain with the upcoming launch? Do you think Pulsechain's utility can compete with other layer 1 blockchains?
Okay, so that's a very good question, and I appreciate you asking me that. So what are my thoughts on Pulsechain with the upcoming launch? I think, and again, I try to be as honest as I can with everything that I do and say. I think Pulsechain's launch could have gone a lot better. I think, and the reason why I say that is this. I am completely fine with the delay. I'd rather, and I say this in a lot of my streams, that Pulsechain launch with perfections and as a perfect product later than launch with imperfections earlier. Reason why is because as a Hexagon, we are a gatekept community, and everyone wants to go down our throats the second they see something happen in the Hex community. Oh, it dipped, it's a Ponzi. Oh, it dipped, it's a scam. Oh, Richard Hart dresses like he's he dresses like a in a 5,000 Prada suit that looks like he got out of prison. Oh, he's a scammer. This is a very gate-kept community, and I'm still trying to figure out a lot of reasons why, because I don't think this community at all deserves this. I don't think this project deserves this. I don't think Richard Hart, as controversial as he is, I don't think he should be gate-kept. I don't think that's fair. I think it's the antithesis of what blockchain stands for. And I think what Richard Hart has built with Hex is something to actually admire, not something to look at with disdain. Now, what I mean by I wish Pulsechain could have launched a little better is that this whole 2 more months idea, it was very similar to the way Hex launched. But the difference was that $600 million wasn't sacrificed for Hex, and $1 billion wasn't sacrificed for Hex. I'm talking about Pulsechain and PulseX. I think that the upcoming launch could have been a little better. I think that more developer updates instead of timeframes would have been a bit more appropriate. Do I crucify anybody for doing that? Absolutely not. But I think that there's always room for improvement. And I think criticism isn't agreeable, but it's necessary. So I think that Pulsechain could have had a more, I want to use the word professional, but I want to use the word transparent and yes, thank you, transparent approach in its launch. Because I remember when people were told that Pulsechain was going to launch 2 weeks after the PulseX sacrifice ended. That was late February. We are now in mid-June. So, and people have had their money locked up almost for a year now. And again, you sacrifice, no expectations for the profit of others. Yeah, whatever. I understand that. But you have to look at it from a perspective that there are people in this project that want to make profit, and especially in a bear market, emotions will run rampant. And I just think it could have been conveyed a bit better, but I don't blame Richard Hart or the developers or any of the sort from that. The lessons learned, it is what it is. What do I think that Pulsechain can compete with other layer ones? Yes, I do. A lot of reasons why. The first reason why is the Hex community. the Hex community is arguably one of the biggest, most vibrant, and most passionate communities in the crypto space. That is something in my 5 years of cryptocurrency, this community is the most unique community I have ever been in. And I say that with the utmost sincerity. I have been in a lot of communities. I've invested in over 70 projects in 5 years. And Hex and Pulsechain are, I'll just intertwine them, are the most interesting communities out there. It is the most interesting community out there. Their passion, their willingness to fight the good fight. They don't care about being gatekept. They use it as a driving force rather than a justification to give up. So that's the first thing. I think that it has a massive community backing it. That's the first thing. The second thing is that, to my knowledge, there are no projects that are launching a documentary film on Netflix, which is a major feat because blockchain in itself is gatekept from a lot of different ways. The only way it's really not gatekept is if you go to biased news sources that basically manipulate you into buying projects, buying crypto at the top so that they can use you as exit liquidity. I'm looking at you, CNBC. So that's another thing. Another thing is that Pulsechain's environmentally friendly paradigm, it's extremely low fees, and provide an atmosphere for a developmentally friendly ecosystem. And I believe that because of that mind state, because of that developmental tranquility, I'd like to call it, the developmental tranquility, I think that people are enticed to build on Pulsechain. And we already see this with the, 60 projects that plan on launching on Pulsechain. There are so many projects that are launching on Pulsechain. You have Love that you and I are ambassadors for. You have Liquid Loans. You have Free Pulse. You have PulsePot. You have Power City. You have Pulse Loring. The list goes on and on. I don't even remember half the projects I interviewed because there's so many. I also think that the PRC20 copies is an enticing prospect as well because you're getting a copy of all of your coins on Ethereum to Pulsechain. I also think that Pulsechain will possibly have a first mover advantage. And when I say first mover advantage, it may not necessarily have to mean that it comes out first. What I mean is that Ethereum, you need 32 Ethereum to have a validator, to my knowledge. And as of right now, that is about $33,000. Now at an all-time high, that was higher than $110,000. Even $32,000. And the amount of computing power you need, I don't see it as an enticing prospect to have to invest $33,000 into something to be able. That is a gatekeeping prospect, unfortunately, with Ethereum 2.0. Pulsechain doesn't have that. And I also think because Richard Hart is so well known, you can either love him or you hate him. That doesn't matter because marketing is marketing. I may not agree with his methods sometimes. I'm sure many can agree. But you know what? He's growing his following in a bear market, and Pulsechain will grow with it because of it. So I think that Pulsechain can compete with other layer 1 blockchains. And I can see with projects that are launching on multiple chains, including Pulsechain, as onboarding tools onto Pulsechain and creating more of an interoperable environment as well. So yes, I think Pulsechain can compete and collaborate with other layer 1s as well.
Okay, awesome. Few things I want to highlight. I love how you brought up this concept of Maxis and use the gatekeeping reference. I think with cryptocurrency, that's very interesting, is that you have every blockchain and every really great project have Maxis, and I call it toxic Maxis, and they drive me crazy. I have a lot of friends that I'll give you a great example, XRP. So they say XRP is going to be the reserve currency because they're so involved with CBDCs and banks. And
$589 a coin.
Yeah, it drives me crazy because the whole point of cryptocurrency and these decentralized, I'll call them economies, or even like these blockchain companies, is to have multiple competing systems. That's part of the reason why the Bitcoin paper was released and Bitcoin's open source. And so That's the one thing that drives me crazy about Maxis. And also you want to invite innovation and competition to these systems so that they can develop and become more efficient. It's like libertarian market ideas. That's how I see it. That's how
Yeah.
my brain works.
I agree.
And then as for the Pulsechain launch, this is something I've been preaching on my channel. A couple months ago, I called that Richard Hart's going to try to launch this project during the bear market because he
I
really,
agree.
yeah, he really wants to do like the hockey stick reference. And everyone's freaking out right now. Well, not everyone's freaking out. A lot of people are upset right now, and we're in a bear market, so the chance of you even making money unless you're using leverage is slim to none, and it would probably be beneficial. And so if you look at the past market cycles, Bitcoin bottoms right around the midterm election, and that's how Satoshi set it up to be, where the presidential election, you get the bull market. The midterm elections, you basically get the bear market.
Yep.
And so we're going to be seeing a bottom right around anywhere from November to December, which
I agree.
I insinuate that Pulsechain is going to launch in that time frame. And that's why Richard Hart did what he did. And he did the same thing for Hex. So
I agree.
So as for layer one blockchain competition, you brought up some great points with the Pulsechain and talking about how it's much more efficient. It has a great onboarding process with the PRC20 airdrops. Now, here's where things get very concerning for me.
Sure.
The one thing that they're coming in with is copying every project and putting onto their blockchain. As for the overall utility behind it, the TPS, right now it was 3 seconds per block time, which amounts to about 50 transactions per second, I believe. So we have a lot of these other blockchains that run in EVM like XDC, Volus, and they're getting TPSs anywhere from 2,000 to 75,000.
Yep.
So do you think that the Pulsechain will be able to innovate and get to that same point where they compete with those blockchains? Because in my mind, it's great that they're doing all this stuff and they have a lot of great onboarding process, but the overall functionality is what's going to really secure the Pulsechain into the future. So what are your thoughts on that?
Sure. So here's my thing. A network is adopted by its user and developer base. It doesn't necessarily have to be on the basis of the TPS. I'm going to use Ethereum as an example. Ethereum has the largest developer community in the entirety of cryptocurrency, but its TPS is what, 15 transactions per second prior to Ethereum 2.0. Am I right on that? Somewhere around 15?
Correct.
Okay. So it has 15 TPS, but it still has a developer community behind it. It has smart contract functionality. It's an infrastructure-based blockchain. People will go in areas where they believe that their development and their projects will be mass adopted. I think that TPS, though it plays a vital role in the longevity of a blockchain, I don't think it's necessarily the defining factor. We've seen many different blockchains that have come and gone. I'm going to use kind of IOTA as IOTA was only a blockchain, but it got faster as more users used it, but IOTA was never really adopted. And I'm going to use IOTA as a perfect example. There are other blockchains out there that are much slower, that are slow, that have been adopted. And I'm using Ethereum as an example. So when realistically speaking, other layer ones could have replaced Ethereum because they were more innovative, they were faster, they were more environmentally friendly, they were proof of stake. But Ethereum's still here. Ethereum's still number 2. Ethereum has the largest developmental community on the planet when it comes to cryptocurrency. So I don't think TPS is necessarily the main factor of defining adoption. I think it's community, I think it's developmental opportunity, and I think it's the understanding if the community will adopt your project. And clearly we're seeing these projects adopting Pulsechain, and but there is one, and I like how you brought up your issue. See, my issue here with Pulsechain is a lot of the projects that I'm seeing, it's it's almost like an echo chamber within the Hex and Pulsechain community. They're basically creating a project to benefit Hex and Pulsechain community members. And that's fine as more people come in, but we need projects that are looking to garner fresh capital from an outside perspective, from outside of the Hex and Pulsechain community. For example, that's why I'm so passionate about Love. Love is garnering outside capital from NFT artists that never even heard of Pulsechain. They're garnering influencers that aren't part of the Pulsechain community. For example, Accountability Nation that we just onboarded, he was introduced to cryptocurrency like 7 months ago and owned meme coins. But now he's involved in Love, and albeit now he's involved in Pulsechain. And he has 12K followers, and he is now a huge part of the motivational, inspirational fitness journey industry on social media. So I think the main issue here that I'm seeing is not a matter of TPS, it's a matter of projects that are not aiming to garner fresh capital outside of Pulsechain and Hex. You can't have a walled garden, because a walled garden is not able to get water to feed those flowers if you need to get the water from the exterior. So that's my main concern personally.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. No, I like how you said that, bringing fresh capital. So actually, this kind of goes into my next question, and so do you think Richard Hart will implement a layer 0 and or interoperability protocol on the Pulsechain in the future? Now, the one thing I want to add into it when you're talking about, bringing in new projects, what we're seeing with a lot of these big projects on Ethereum or Binance Smart Chain or even Phantom, instead of, moving to like a more efficient blockchain, if they see something wrong with it, they're actually making their own blockchain. And I'll give you an example. UFO Gaming is actually creating it's like a Game X blockchain. And then Tomb Finance, I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, but they're creating it's called a Tomb chain that's going to feed off of the Phantom blockchain. And so when you see how a lot of these projects are, creating their own layer 1 blockchain, there's going to be like a huge call for interoperability. And that's something like Polkadot and Cosmos have really been leading the way with, and Cardano's starting to jump in as well. So what are your overall thoughts about interoperability entering into the Pulsechain?
Sure. So for those who are not familiar with the layer 0 protocol, layer 0 protocol is basically the initial stage of a blockchain that allows that blockchain to function, and it provides basically blockchains to facilitate cross-chain interoperability so that you have this unique ability to interconnect with other communities or digital nations or whatever you want to call them. I think that Richard Hart is incredibly innovative. I think that his developers are incredibly innovative. I think one of the main catalysts Richard Hart said that he created Pulsechain was because he saw that Ethereum gas fees were too high and that there had to be a new innovation. I believe that Richard Hart wants to make a legacy in cryptocurrency, and Pulsechain will be that legacy besides Hex. And in order for Pulsechain to stay relevant, he's going to have to stay with the times. And I'm seeing personally the next step, which I'm surprised it wasn't as adopted this time around. But I think the next step is cross-chain interoperability, not just necessarily by dApps, not just necessarily by blockchains, but by dApps as well. You're seeing that in Pulsechain. A lot of these projects that are launching on Pulsechain are not just launching on Pulsechain. They're launching on BSC. They're launching on Phantom. They may be even already deployed on Ethereum. So I think, just as Richard Hart said, he's going to have a new wallet because he's disgruntled with how MetaMask is functioning. I think that if necessary, if he sees that it's necessary for different protocols in order to interact with Pulsechain, to create some type of IBC clone, I think that he would definitely do something like that. And I do think that Pulsechain will implement eventually, if necessary, if the next trend, which may possibly be interoperability, because we're starting to see interoperable dApps, I absolutely do. I absolutely think that Richard Hart will implement the layer 0 and a interoperability protocol that will allow Pulsechain to interconnect with other communities, because you can't you don't want Pulsechain to be an isolated blockchain. You just don't. You don't want Pulsechain to be a blockchain just for hexagons. You don't. And this is why I have a major issue with a lot of hexagons that gatekeep third-party projects. I've seen this in other blockchains. And what the projects do then, because they feel slighted, they just say, oh, screw you, we'll go to the next blockchain. So I think, personally, that he will implement an interoperability layer 0 in the future, if necessary, which I do think it will become necessary.
Right. You know, you mentioned earlier that community is a big part of cryptocurrency, and I definitely do agree. In my opinion, I think the utility of the future is interoperability, because we're kind of in this phase where we're trying to find like an internet browser for blockchains, and everyone has their own little web page, and it's hard to go from one to the other. And I think when it comes to Pulsechain's ultimate success, you know, they can get up to like 1 trillion TPS. You know, it'll be possible one day. They can do all this other stuff, but bridges and some of these dApps are very sketchy. Like the Solana bridge got hacked for hundreds of millions of dollars, and you know, that's my biggest fear. And so I think he definitely will go in the future and do something like that. I think my biggest question is like, what's the roadmap? What's the plan down the future? And that, if I could get the answer to that question, that would actually make me completely feel, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess like safe or comfortable overall with the project, because I'm always hesitant behind any investment I get into.
I agree.
So
nothing wrong with that, brother.
Yes, sir. Cool. All right, moving on. So I want to talk a little bit about DeFi. As you know, here on the Verse Crypto channel, we're really big into DeFi projects, and we're full of degens. So, so Binance. So this past bull market, we saw Binance Smart Chain go absolutely bananas. You know, there was like literally a project launching every hour, and some of them were awesome projects, some of them were just straight up scams, and I don't know the name for it. I call it, I'm probably going to call it like the DeFi blast or something, but it's going to definitely go down in cryptocurrency history. Now that we have Pulsechain launching, we got all these projects coming over. Do you foresee like a massive amount of DeFi projects and protocols just rapidly launching on the Pulsechain in the upcoming bull market in, was it 2024?
I would say so. Okay, that's a very good question. I think right now, unfortunately, with all of the different hacks with DeFi, a lot of the different exploits that we see, public trust in DeFi has, and maybe I'm wrong on this, maybe I'm just cynical. I think the public trust in DeFi has kind of eroded right now because of these exploits, because of these hacks, because of these consistent liquidation mechanisms that people don't read in the fine print of DeFi protocols, and they lose everything because they're overextended, or they take out a collateralized loan and they do something by mistake, or the project themselves has bugs that create this issue. I think that DeFi will explode on Pulsechain dependent on the value of these projects launching. And what I mean by that is this. Binance has been around for a while. Pulsechain is a very, very, very new blockchain. So my opinion is that the DeFi projects that shine in the beginning have to be like the shining light of Pulsechain, because it will not be a good look if an assortment of garbage DeFi is launched on Pulsechain. I think that would be a major problem. And I think that would kind of erode, it would create not a disdain, but a massive sense of trepidation towards DeFi launching on Pulsechain. But I do absolutely believe where there is opportunity and where there are layer ones where developers see opportunity, they will create projects. And I believe that those assortment of projects, DeFi will be one of them. So I absolutely agree that DeFi projects will explode on Pulsechain. I just hope these DeFi projects will also onboard users outside of Pulsechain as well. So that's my take on DeFi projects on Pulsechain.
That was phenomenal analysis. I think like the rug pulls with DeFi were really, really bad this past bull market. I agree 100%, and it just makes DeFi look bad. But
yeah, it does.
But you get a few really great projects that come out of it, and two of the projects I like to mention is the Animal Farm and Drip. And
I was about to say drip. Yes.
yeah, so I got a Drip very early, and that was one of my favorite projects. And when I first looked at it, I was like, damn, this is a Ponzi scheme. And it is a Ponzi scheme, but it's a Ponzi scheme that you can't pull all your money out at once. So it actually works, which is
Yeah.
it's pretty insane concept, but it made so many millionaires. And then the Animal Farm came on and really fortified the Binance Smart Chain and increased the TVL across the blockchain.
Yep.
So I think overall, we're in this weird phase where we're just testing the waters. But when Pulsechain launches, there's going to be a big DeFi protocol that's going to come along and really contribute to the overall ecosystem health, and it's going to be great. So,
I agree.
Hey man, real quick, for some reason this is about to close out.
Yep,
So,
send me another link.
all right, right on, man. All right.
Yep, take your time. Absolutely, let's get it. Absolutely, let's get it.
All right, right back at it. We're gonna hop right back into it. So, kind of just starting off, I really want to get into, we got the Pulsechain launch coming up, and we're going to have a PRC20 copy from every ERC20 project. So in your opinion, which ERC20 projects do you think are going to excel very well on the Pulsechain? And I'm just talking just straight ERC20, not ones that are going to be exclusively launching onto the Pulsechain.
Yep, I completely understand that. And I want to say it's a phenomenal question that's not asked a lot in streams that I've noticed, which is an unfortunate issue because one of the main selling points for Pulsechain is this copy. Here's my thing, and I've said this in other streams. I don't want to see Pulsechain where the only coins that are basically traded are PHEX, Pulsechain, and PulseX. I don't want to see that because, again, that just makes this an isolated chain that I don't want to see. I want to see this be a vibrant cryptocurrency ecosystem and blockchain ecosystem. If I had to make a presumption of other projects, they're probably the most well-known projects that pre-existing hexagons and those hexagons to be that come from outside the community hold. So I'm presuming Ethereum will be traded on Pulsechain. I think that possibly another popular cryptocurrency, maybe Chainlink, will be on Pulsechain, will be traded on Pulsechain. I can't think of many right now. It's very difficult to speculate on that, I have to admit. I will say for a fact that I think Ethereum will be, P-Ethereum, as you would call it, will be one of those main projects that are launched quickly. I mean, not launched quickly, that will be traded quickly. But I think the main projects that are going to be traded in the beginning are PHEX, Pulsechain, and PulseX, and then the other crypto, the ERC20s that you'll see will also become more vibrant. Maybe Shiba, maybe. I don't know how the meme coin trend is going to react. We do have a lot of meme coins on Pulsechain, and they're really cool. I'm not gonna lie, like Pulse Doge, I like. I just did one with Floki Pulse. I think meme coins will make a that may originate on ERC on Ethereum may trade well on Pulsechain, but I think honestly, right now, the immediate launch, people will be trading PHEX like there's no tomorrow. And that kind of makes me nerve-wracked about the trajectory of EHEX. Will EHEX become irrelevant then when PHEX launches? It's a difficult question. And I don't know. I was actually talking about this with my friend today because I actually just bought, not a large bag of hex, but I bought like, I don't know, like something like 60,000 hex last night. So I think that PHEX will be one of the most vibrant coins that will be traded on Pulsechain. Only time will tell if those from the Ethereum community come over and trade their other coins as well.
Absolutely. And one thing I will say about Shiba Inu, It did start out as a meme coin, but they did implement Shiba Swap, the Bone and Leash protocol, and they're coming out with the Metaverse game, which kind of leads me into my next point with, ERC20 is performing well on the Pulse chain. And I think it's going to be a lot of these, Metaverse projects, Decentraland, Sandbox, the Shiba Inu Metaverse game, whenever that comes out. I don't know the details, but the Shiba Inu community won't stop talking about it. So, and the two things I really like that you mentioned was, Chainlink and PETH. And Chainlink, that Oracle has been a phenomenal project that's been almost on every single blockchain. There's one multi-chain currency that's really done a great job, is definitely Chainlink.
I agree.
And yeah, and to answer your question with what's going to happen with EHEX and then you have like PHEX, how I see it is with the Pulse chain, you're going to have a PulseX liquidity pair where you have your EHEX being bridged over to the Pulse chain. You can match up with your PHEX, and then you can basically just do your swaps there and own your EHEX on the Pulse chain. So how I see it is it's going to be like a kind of like a little market with buy and sell. If we see EHEX go above PHEX, well, a lot of people are going to sell their EHEX, and then it's going to come back down to the PHEX price. And it's going to be like a peg. And if it dips down below the PX price, a lot of people are going to buy into EHEX and try and make a quick buck. And so that's what I'm predicting. It's going to be like basically the same price, but it's going to fluctuate back and forth. And now that you can make that trade on the Pulse chain and not to worry about the gas fee, it's going to be like a huge game changer. This is all speculative. I could be wrong.
Of course. No, of course. I understand. This whole market is speculation.
Yeah. So, but I think ultimately it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out, because the Pulse chain was built for Hex, and it goes back to my other point with, UFO gaming. Like UFO gaming is building their own blockchain, and Hex is building their own blockchain. So it's going to be cool to see.
Indeed.
So next one, moving back over to the Pulse chain. So you've definitely interviewed a lot of altcoin projects. Absolutely awesome, and good job, man.
Thank you.
And
so many. Thank you.
If there's one person that understands the space, understands the altcoins that are going to be launching on the Pulse chain, it would definitely be you. So in your opinion, what are your top projects that you think will perform well when the Pulse chain is launched and kind of going on to the future of the project? Like, well, what are your top projects that you think are going to be launched on the Pulse chain? That's a better question.
Sure. So that's a very good question. And there are a lot of them. And as you said, and I appreciate it, I've interviewed so many Pulse chain oriented projects that I can't even remember half of them, to be honest with you. However, with that being said, I'm going to name a few projects, and this doesn't mean that there aren't other projects out there that aren't fantastic. I may have just forgotten, or it just slipped my mind. I'm going to say Love right now. And the reason why I'm going to say Love is this. And I'm going to say other ones after, but I want to give an explanation on why I say Love. Out of all the projects in Pulsechain, I decided to become an ambassador for Love because of Anders' business expertise. When I look at Anders' business expertise, he looks at cryptocurrency from a business perspective and not a speculative perspective. And for those of you who don't know who Anders is, he's the founder of Love, and he also built a company from 20, I believe it was, he built a company up to 150 people, and then sold Diacrit, and sold that company. And if you've seen what Anders has done for Love in the last 2 months, he has traveled to 4 different continents. He's been in South America. He's been in Ecuador. He came to Florida. Then he went to Cali. Now he's in Thailand. Then he went to London. Then he was in Singapore. Like this guy is extremely motivated to see Love succeed. And when I look at cryptocurrency, there are too many people that look at it from a tokenomic standpoint only, and they don't look at it from a business perspective. That's the main issue. Another reason why I find a lot of passion in Love is that Love is one of those few projects that I've noticed from Pulsechain that are actually looking to garner outside capital into Pulsechain. Like you can't have, like if I had, for example, this room that I'm in, if we had 15 people in this room just exchanging different PRC20s or Hex or Pulsechain or PulseX, nothing's going to happen. nothing's really going to happen. It's just going to be a small group of people just selling to one another. What Love is doing is it is bringing new capital. It's bringing NFT artists. It's bringing people that had no idea Pulsechain even existed into Pulsechain. Its main goal is capitalization. I know that Anders has also offered some of the most prominent Bitcoin maxis to join Love and to join Pulsechain. And unfortunately, Bitcoin maxis are very gatekept when it comes to Hex, so they've politely could decline. But I don't see many founders that are doing this, that are going from continent to different conference to promote this project. And I see a lot of respect in that man because of what he's doing for this project. It takes a lot of balls, it takes a lot of conviction, and it takes a lot of audaciousness to do what he's doing. I also like the function, because I'm a content creator, you're a content creator. When you have a super chats up, which I have, and I'm not ashamed to say it, but YouTube takes 30% of your super chat revenue. You also have to take in consideration that if you're not a content creator with more than, I don't know, 50 to 100K followers, subscribers, whatever they're called, you're not making much money. I mean, for example, I'll be completely transparent. So far this month on super chats and ad revenue, I've made $100. Not much money, really not. I do this more for the passion, and I want to give people a voice, and I want to have my own voice. But if anyone here tells you they're not here to make money, they're a complete BS artist. And that's the truth. And what Love allows for people to do is to take back that stream of income without having to worry about a centralized intermediary taking and siphoning your revenue streams. I also appreciate the cashback loyalty program. It's the business perspective, the cashback loyalty program, having 1 million products on Love Fee, having an influencer board, having individuals come in and focus on building on Love while simultaneously bringing fresh capital into Pulsechain. That's something I really haven't seen with a lot of projects in Pulsechain. And I understand why many Hexagons and Pulsechans are building projects, because they want to better the Pulsechain Hex community. That's fine. I understand that. There are other projects out there that I think will do very, very well. But there's a reason why I'm a Love.io ambassador, and I find a lot of passion in what Anders is doing, what Greta is doing, what Adam is doing. And the fact that we already have, I believe, 12 ambassadors and counting, and we are growing substantially, kind of proves that point to me. And I think that Love, from a business perspective, rather than a tokenomics perspective, is able to successfully amalgamate legacy finance and legacy business prospect to cryptocurrency business models. And that's why I think Anders will do so well in cryptocurrency and blockchain, and has done well in cryptocurrency and blockchain. The guy has to have some sense of self-sufficiency. He's able to travel for 3 months and live in a suitcase and promote Love. I mean, that takes a lot of tenacity, and that takes a lot of money too. So he's built companies in the past. He's lived in many different countries. I also believe he lived in China as well. He's lived in many different countries, understands many different cultures, and I think that's necessary for an inclusive economy with a name like Love. So Love is my favorite project on Pulsechain. There are other massive projects that I think will do very, very well. Power City is one of them. I love Power City. I love the team of Power City. I think what they're doing is great. I think they have a vibrant community. I love Liquid Loans, where basically you never have to sell your Pulsechain. I think Jesse's a great guy. I think they have a fantastic team. I think that, excuse me, I think that what are other projects that I've seen? I love PulsePot. I think that people should have their big boy boots and understand that we are adults here, and if you're going to gamble, that's fine. Don't be an idiot and gamble your life savings away. PulsePot is launching on 4 different blockchains. So I think that that's a great onboarding tool. I think Free Pulse is another great onboarding tool that's already onboarded multiple different hundreds of, if not thousands of different people onto Pulsechain. So I think Free Pulse is another great tool. I think the NFT projects, the NFT marketplaces will be enticing for a lot of people like Mintra, like Pulseverse. There's one other NFT marketplace that I'm missing that I can't think of off the top of my head. The Hex copycats, though, that are launching on Pulsechain, I think they're going to be met with a lot of resistance. I'm not going to name those copycats. There are many of them that I've interviewed. They're going to be met with a lot of resistance, in my opinion. I think they'll succeed. Some will. Yeah, I think they will. But they're going to be met with a lot of resistance. But if I were to assume what I think my favorite projects are Love, Power City, PulsePot, Liquid Loans, Free Pulse. Would you mind if I actually went and checked my YouTube channel so I can look at the other projects so that I can add on to them? Is that okay?
Yeah, go for it, man. Go for it,
definitely.
man.
Let me get my phone because it's hard to even think about like who some of these projects are. So let me check my phone.
Absolutely.
And let me see what other projects I've interviewed that I actually really like, that really caught my eye. So Reflections is another interesting project that I liked. I am a big fan of Desktop, which is basically a database of all things Pulsechain. I think that, excuse me, I think that, let's see, another project here. I think that Fiat is an interesting project as well. I think that Pulse LN is very interesting. Bringing the Bitcoin Lightning Network to Pulsechain is very innovative. I think that's a very interesting project as well. Pulseverse, if you don't know what Pulseverse is, it's a NFT marketplace. And basically the creator is a child prodigy. He's like 14 and he goes to school full time and he works on Pulseverse as well. I don't know how he does it, but that's an amazing, amazing individual. I also think Maximus is a fantastic project, and we see it already with the massive amount of growth we've seen with Maximus DAO. I think Maximus DAO is a fantastic project as well. I think that, let's see what other, Internet Money. Internet Money is another one. I love Internet Money. I think what they're doing, creating dividends, is an amazing idea. I think the wallet they're creating is an amazing idea as well. I think Internet Money is also a very good project.
KG is a great guy.
Yeah, I love KG. KG, that man, I love his perspective on, he looks at blockchain from a philosophical perspective, and I respect him a lot for that. Because a lot of people don't do that, and that's very important.
I think the other NFT marketplace that you were trying to bring up was Akira.
Akira is one of them. Yes. Yeah. How to Pulse is another one. Hurricash, which is not really known. I think it's not really known. It's kind of like Tornado Cash, but on Pulsechain is another interesting project. Yeah, those are the ones that I find very interesting. So yeah, those are the ones that I think that will do well. I think Pulse Lorian is also another interesting project. I think the meme coins like Pulse Doge is very interesting. Pulse, there's Pulse Doge, and what was the name of the one that got airdropped to Hexagons? Was it Pulse Doge Coin? But there's Pulse Doge and then there's Pulse Doge Coin, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it might be the same one. We covered that. Let me look. Yeah, so
Yeah,
Pulse Doge Coin did the airdrop because we did a video on that a couple days ago.
Yep, that's it. Yep, Pulse Doge Coin. I think that will also be that's also another interesting project. So these are all projects that I think will do quite well. But if I had to do a top 5, it would be probably Love, Power City, Liquid Loans, PulsePot, and Free Pulse. That's not to say that there aren't other fantastic projects out there. Those are just ones to me that I feel have the biggest communities. Look at Liquid Loans' community. Look at Power City's community. Look at PulsePot's growing community. Look at Free Pulse's community. So, make that as you will. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And the one thing I'll add to, love.io is it's censorship resistant. Keep in mind, we live in a day and age where, if you don't fit a certain set of ideals, money transfers can be basically stopped. And with love, it actually surpasses those censorships that can be in place. So it's basically it's kind of like free speech. You can't really limit it. So that's one thing that's very beneficial, and I wanted to add to that. And yeah, so and the other project I wanted to add to a really cool Pulsechain altcoin that a lot of people should consider checking out, not financial advice, is BankX. Their stable coin that they're implementing, it's very revolutionary, where you can take a BankX token, match it up with the whichever blockchain native currency you're on. So in this case would be Pulse. You can exchange it for a stable coin, and that stable coin is traced to the price of silver. And I think that in and of itself, it's very new, it's very revolutionary, and it's something that I encourage everybody to check out. I'm not sure if it's going to work out or whatnot, but it's an interesting way to implement a stable coin. It's something we haven't seen before. So right on, man. All right, moving on. So I think we kind of already answered this question, but I want to get kind of your thoughts on this. When do you think the Pulsechain will launch, and why?
It's a very good question. A lot of people are not going to like what I'm about to say. A lot of people may disagree with me. I wouldn't doubt it, and please do. And I hope to God I'm wrong. But I would not be surprised if Pulsechain does not launch until late Q4 2022. And when I say late Q4, I mean like what you said before, like November, December, and maybe I dare say January 2023. And the reason why I say that is because when you go from solidity to go, and you have to ensure that there are no imperfections, there's going to be a time where this has to take time to develop. And even Richard Hart in his last stream said that there may be, and not a yes, not a no, that there may be another testnet. And testnets, would a testnet 2.0 or 2.5 take like 2 months? So we're not even at that stage yet. So I know a lot of people are not going to like what I'm saying here. And again, don't take my advice as gospel. I'm just a dude that lives in his grandmother's house, to be honest. But I do believe that Pulsechain will not launch until anywhere between late October till early January of 2023. I may be completely wrong in that analysis, but I've grown to accept that I'm going to wait probably for another 6 more months.
Yeah, well, I agree with you, and I think you have the right to your opinion, and everybody, you got a bunch of dudes behind their keyboard, saying stuff on the internet, but regardless, I think your analysis is really thoughtful and definitely have some great insight, but we'll just have to wait to see. So let's say we speed forward to the launch whenever it happens. Do you have any sort of like strategy of what you're going to do right when the Pulsechain launch? Or, like, are you going to sit back and wait? Are you going to take a look at some projects to see maybe you're going to hop in right off the bat? Like, well, what's your overall strategy when it launches? And kind of has like great insight for anyone who's new to cryptocurrency, new to the Pulsechain, and how they compare for the upcoming launch.
Sure. So I'm very trepidatious in sacrificing for any project, and that doesn't make me a maxi by any means. That means that a lot of these projects are startup projects on Pulsechain when Pulsechain hasn't launched yet, and we are in the midst of a bear market. It's a sort of risky play. I'm not going to lie. My strategy is this: I sacrifice for PulseX, and there are people in the Pulsechain community. They want to stay anonymous. They are basically angels. They basically come up to me and said, Corey, we appreciate what you do for Pulsechain. We know you missed the Pulsechain sacrifice because of timing. You didn't get involved in Pulsechain to October, but we're going to give you what you wanted in the Pulsechain sack rate, day one sack rate. Just hit us up when Pulsechain happens, and we'll do an OTC deal with you. My strategy is really simple. I'm just going to buy and hold. Like, I'm not doing all the LP crap. I'm not doing all the LP stuff. I'm not doing the whole all of these different strategies that are coming out. For me personally, I'm just going to keep buying on dips. I'm probably not going to buy Pulsechain if it goes up a 3x from its day one sack rate. maybe a 4x, maybe 5. It depends. I sacrifice for Pulsex. I have enough Pulsex that I feel like I'm confident in. Pulsechain, again, like I said, I have people in the community that are basically, you know, angelic in that way. My strategy would be this. It's almost like a bottle. It's almost like a Coke can that was just shaken. The hype is coming in the Coke can because it's been shaked for so long. And when the top of the can opens, the floodgates are going to open to trade Pulsechain. But sooner or later, the Coca-Cola is going to steam down. It's going to calm down a little bit. And there's dips in every project. Make no mistake about it. Don't be naive, not you, but don't be naive into thinking that Pulsechain is some anomaly that's not going to have dips. I mean, people told me I was an idiot for not buying Hex at 10, 15 cents. And my first buy-in price was 3.1 cents. So because it's bear market. So yeah. So my strategy personally, just because I just want to be, I don't want to be too enthralled in the technical specifications of what's going on, but I'm very focused on just buying Pulsechain and Pulsex, holding it until my desired sell points. I'm not one of those people, and I'm going to be fully transparent. I'm not one of those people that are going to hold something forever. I know there's a lot of different strategies that allow you to never have to sell. I think it's, you know, as a 26-year-old man, it's important to build wealth. Cash is king. You may disagree with me on that or not. Tell me if you can go buy a house with most cryptocurrencies out there. Fiat is still, unfortunately, the main currency of the world. So I will keep buying Pulsechain and Pulsex on dips. I will probably stake them. I will do that. That makes no reason why I wouldn't. I will probably stake Pulsechain and Pulsex to specific projects that I find enticing. The projects that I'm looking at, obviously besides Love, is every single one that I've interviewed. Every single one that I've interviewed, I've always offered follow-up interviews. Like the ones that stand out are Liquid Loans, you know, Power City, Internet Money, Free Pulse, Pulse Pot. I'm going to be following those a lot. And all the other ones that I've interviewed and those that haven't even launched yet. But I think for a lot of people, they need to be very careful of what they're sacrificing for, because there are a lot of projects out there that will end up being scams, and or they won't work out, and that's not the fault of the developer. That's just, you know, market natural selection. But with that being said, full disclosure, I have not sacrificed for any other projects besides Pulsex and quasi-sacrifice for Pulsechain, because there are people who are nice enough to give me the day one sacrifice rate. But I'm too prudent in sacrificing in anything. So right now, I know people are probably going to say, "Wow, Corey, you know, you've interviewed all these projects, but you're basically only sacrificing for Pulsex and Pulsechain." But they are the safest bets right now in the Richard Hart ecosystem, and I want to see how these projects develop. I'm not going to jump to any conclusions on these third-party projects launching on Pulsechain regarding their longevity. I'm sure many of them will succeed. That's not my problem here. My issue here is that we're in the midst of a bear market right now, and generally the main token that is the king of a layer 1 blockchain is the token that's associated to layer 1 blockchain. BNB to Binance, Ethereum to ETH, Phantom to FTM, Polygon's a layer 2 to my knowledge, Matic, you have ICX to Icon, and Pulsechain to Pulse. So I find a lot of the value proposition in this cryptocurrency, in this ecosystem, to be from Pulsechain and Pulsex. That's not going to take away. And the reason why I say value is because I see less risk in it. after I cashed out in May and after I saw my money go down from $130,000 to $1,200, I'm very, very, very prudent with the things that I invest in. And I just think right now it's very important for me to watch these projects flourish and succeed. And I'll make my decisions and execute them accordingly. But I think that it's also important that people explore other projects as well, not just in Pulsechain, but outside of it as well. So
absolutely. One thing I always preach when I cover some of these projects, it's very difficult to tell which one's going to succeed or fail, because a lot of them haven't gotten audits yet, and some are moving towards getting an audit. But every single one of these Pulsechain projects is going through a sacrifice phase. And the one thing I always reiterated people is that you don't have to sacrifice for these tokens or coins. You know, when Pulsechain launches, this happens with every single project. You know, I've been doing this DeFi thing for a while. The price of the token goes absolutely bonkers, and then you have a sell-off because people take profits right off the bat. It happens every time.
You saw it with Hedron.
Yeah, and same thing with Hedron, and well, there's like another one like Maximus. I think that was the name of the project. But regardless, you know, you don't have to go into these sacrifice phases. You know, it's great to just create a watch list, see what's going on. If you're going to get Pulse, if you're going to get PulseX, stake it, or maybe create an LP pair in PulseX and put it there. Earn some passive income off of the tokens you're getting. But also, I like the other thing you said, buying the dip. You know, there's a lot of ways you can do it, whether it's, you know, you have price points where you go in and buy, or every time you see a massive drop off, and you just buy the dip. That's basically dollar cost averaging, just like a simpler way of doing it. So I know you know all this, but this is something I'm telling.
I understand.
Yeah, this is something I want to reiterate to anyone viewing this video. When it comes to, you know, this upcoming launch, don't feel like you have to buy every single project. There's going to be a few good ones, there's going to be a few bad ones, and then a lot of these that are going to be launching, these little small altcoins, some of them are going to turn out to be scams, and people are going to freak out. So regardless, you know, do your own research. You know, we're not financial advisors, we're just a bunch of kids on the internet just talking about crypto and stuff like that. So right on. Yeah, man. So outside of that, that's it for my questions. Like I said, I want to say, you know, thank you so much for letting me interview you today. You're very knowledgeable, and you've done a lot of great stuff for the Pulsechain community, and when it comes to these altcoin projects, you know, you definitely are a wizard, and it'll be really great to see what you cover in the future, and maybe we can do some sort of follow-up a couple months down the road. So
a couple of months, couple of weeks, I don't care, hit me up. You know, I'm always happy to go on your show. I love the verse. I love what you guys are doing. You guys have built a really cool YouTube channel. I remember when you guys started, and you guys are killing it. I also want to say I appreciate, you know, working with you as a Love.io ambassador. It's amazing to work with you. And I think you guys are doing very well at the verse, and I think that I'd love to come on in a couple of weeks, couple of months, whatever you gentlemen prefer.
Absolutely. And we're going to drop your YouTube channel down in the description below.
Thanks,
if you guys aren't subbed to this man, sub to him, because he's a lot like us. We find these small projects launching on the Pulsechain, or we like to expand out a little more into DeFi. We put it out there just so you guys can take a look and make your own decision. So
absolutely.
That being said, we're going to wrap this